Hi guys, I want to tell you guys all about the wonderful, wonderful weekend that I just had. Basically doing nothing but eating and making things. Hi guys, thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Felicia from SweetGeorgia, and this is Taking Back Friday. Every Friday I come to you and I talk about what is happening in the SweetGeorgia world, what's happening at the school of SweetGeorgia, and what is happening in my world of making things, including knitting and spinning and weaving and dyeing and all the things that I love to do. So today I want to talk about getting away so that you can do your thing. So basically the idea of going away on a retreat. Now, I have, for the past couple of years, taught at a couple of different knitters retreats and things. So going up and going to a retreat location and spending time with all the attendees, it's wonderful, but I'm teaching in those instances, and it's not always the most relaxing thing. Actually, I get really super nervous. So I love going on them and I love doing it and I love teaching, but at the same time, there's that aspect of teaching that makes you a little bit nervous and anxious about how the weekend is going to go. So those weekends are not super relaxing. But I think back to another time, like 8, 9, 10 years ago, when I was just an attendee at many of these retreats. Well, not many. I mainly went to the Interweave SOAR retreat that happened every fall. SOAR stood for the Spin-Off Autumn Retreat. And so I think it was almost 35, almost 40 years that this retreat was running. And it started off very, very small and gradually grew and grew and grew. But it was specifically a spinning retreat. So Interweave Spin-Off magazine would host this retreat in different parts of the US. They would like alternate between a West Coast and an East Coast retreat. And I went to, I think, 2 retreats. One of them was in Bend, Oregon, and I drove from Vancouver down to Oregon, and it was gorgeous. It was a beautiful drive, so relaxing. I can't even remember how long it was to drive, maybe about 6 hours. But during that time, I drove through one of the mountains. I can't remember which one it was, but I drove through mountain and drove through snow, drove past trees. It was beautiful. It was relaxing. Just the journey to get to the retreat was relaxing. And then once you were there on the compound or the resort, there was not really anywhere that you could go. Like you couldn't easily get into town or anything like that. So you stayed at the retreat location with the other attendees. And as part of that, you would attend different spinning classes or workshops with various teachers. And it was just a very large spinning community that was there. Of course, many of them also did weaving. Many of them also did knitting or what other fiber arts crafts. But everybody was there specifically for spinning and learning about spinning. I went to another one of these SOARs, and it was in Wisconsin. Trying to remember. It was in Wisconsin by a lake. And that was also beautiful. I remember it being very windy, but it was also really wonderful. And it was at that particular retreat that I took a 3-day long workshop with Margaret Stove, who is a spinner and knitter from New Zealand. And she is the one who has been very focused on learning how to spin very, very, very fine lace yarn. And you spin this yarn in order to knit it into big lace shawls. So I learned so much during that very intensive 3-day workshop with Margaret Stove. And on top of that, there were also another couple of workshops that I took learning how to spin sock yarn with Janelle Laidman. She's the one who is sort of known for starting the fractal spinning sort of technique. So lots and lots of fantastic teachers to learn from in this case. With my experience at these 2 retreats, it was very much like you go, you wake up, you have breakfast. Breakfast is wonderful because you sit at a different table and you talk to different people, and every day you pick a different table so that way you're mixing and meeting all sorts of people from all over the country. And then everybody scurries off to their classes. And then 3 hours later or 2.5 hours later, everybody comes back and has lunch together. And then everybody runs off and does an afternoon class. And then everybody comes back and has dinner together. And then there's some kind of evening activity. So maybe the evening activity is, well, it's generally a giant spin-in, right? But the evening activity is maybe like a fashion show or a show and tell. There was a couple times where there was karaoke night. I think it was always sort of around Halloween weekend. So there was some dress up, you can bring your Halloween costume, things like that. So there was always some kind of an evening activity, but it felt very much like we're on the go. Like, even though it's very relaxing and we get to learn and do all these wonderful things, it's very much like, I'm waking up, I'm going to class. I'm coming back from class, I'm going to class. I'm coming back from class, I'm going to class. And so that can be great, but it's also not sort of the epitome of relaxation. So last weekend, I was very, 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 very lucky to have been invited to join a couple of girls on a sort of just a very casual retreat. And it's just a group of friends. Rachel from Wool and Spinning was there. Katrina from Crafty Jacks was there. Heidi at Vegan Yarns was there as well. And Jessica and Mari, who were friends of Rachel's from a long time ago, they were also there as well. So the 6 of us just basically drove out to a space that's probably about 2 hours outside of Vancouver and just hung out for a weekend in a house that we rented. Everybody sort of cooked for each other, and there was no set learning activities. It was just everybody bringing the projects that they're working on, looking at this expanse of time, a whole day without any other obligations besides sitting there and making stuff, without any other obligations to, what would you make during that time? And so I think all of us were a little bit over ambitious about how much could be accomplished. So I brought my spinning wheel and a whole bunch of fiber, and also my weaving loom, and also 2 knitting projects. And so I thought that I could get done more than I maybe could have got done. But I actually did get quite a bit done. I got all of the yak and silk all spun up. So that was glorious and wonderful, and I'm so happy about that. I'm just trying to think about how I'm going to apply this next. And then I had previously spun one of the silk puff braids. Well, this is actually half a braid. This was going to be spun using that fractal technique. And so basically I took a braid and I split it in half and split that half into multiple halves. And that's what I spun onto this bobbin. And then onto a second bobbin, I spun the remainder of that braid. So now these 2 I'm going to apply together. But, even though we didn't have any particular learning activities planned during this weekend, I still learned a lot of things from the girls because everybody does things slightly differently. I'm watching people do their spinning, I'm watching people do their plying. There was a lot of plying happening this weekend. And just, learning from Rachel about how she actually takes all of her handspun yarn, all of her singles, and rewinds them onto weaving bobbins in order to flip the orientation of those yarns so that she can start plying from the beginning of the yarn again. So, like you spin and the beginning of your yarn is inside this bobbin. And then when you get to the tail end, if you ply the 2 tail ends together and work back towards the front, you're going to get a less of a smooth yarn. So she feels like it makes a huge difference, flipping the yarns around in this way by rewinding them to other bobbins and then plying from those weaving bobbins. So that's what I'm going to try with these yarns here. I mentioned that I also brought my weaving loom, and I did manage to get it set up. It was all warped before I headed out. And then while I was there, I just basically tied on and then started weaving, started adding a bunch of weft to this loom. Can you see it? Yeah, that's the shuttle. Ta-da! So I was working on that as well that weekend, and also started a new sweater, which I'll show you in a minute. Yeah, so I did start a new sweater while I was there as well. And so this sweater is going to be using that strawberry tea color. Strawberry tea. There's 2 different dye lots, so I'm alternating skeins and mixing those together. So alternating each round is a different skein. And so far, so good. I'm making the worsted version of the boxy sweater by Joji Locatelli. This has been in my queue for like years now. And when I was thinking about what sweater to knit next, I thought I really, really want more of these pullovers that actually just fit and feel good. And I have this sweater that I bought. It's a store-bought sweater from American Eagle, and I wear it a lot, but it's super ratty. But but I look at the silhouette of that sweater, and it's very similar to the boxy style. Very very loose fitting, very short, sort of 3/4 length sleeves, and just yeah, like just kind of like a put over everything kind of sweater. And so that is what this is going to be. This is 240 stitches around. You cast on 240 stitches, knit this much ribbing, and then knit 17 inches of stockinette in the round. So this is definitely my TV knitting. If you are interested, we're currently finished. We just finished watching the new Netflix series, or the BBC series, The Bodyguard, on Netflix, and it's awesome. So yeah, that's basically what we did on the retreat. We headed out of Vancouver maybe Friday afternoon. We got there for Friday night, had dinner together, and then everybody just hung out and knit. It was really very, very casual, very chill. And yeah, we just knit on Friday night. And then Saturday morning, we just all got together, and Katrina made us all cinnamon buns from scratch, which were amazing. So amazing. And then after that, everybody kind of just settled in and started doing a lot of spinning on Saturday. So Saturday was just basically spinning at the living room. And then when it was lunchtime, we moved 3 feet to the dining table. We sat and ate lunch. And after lunch, we moved 3 feet back to the living room. And then we just continued to spin and then ply. It was just such a relaxing weekend. And sometimes you need that time to just go and sort of be by yourself and do your own thing, and not necessarily be chasing any sort of content, like not chasing any, oh, I have to learn this new thing, but instead just allowing the experience to show you things, to reveal things to you. And sometimes the things that are revealed to you are just through the very simple conversations that you have with people. And so out of this weekend, I feel like I learned a lot from these girls about not just making things or techniques to do with spinning or knitting, but also there's lots of conversations about food and how we prepare food and how we make food, and all of these kinds of things. They work up into all different aspects of our lives. So yeah, I just felt like sometimes you need that time to do these things. There's all different kinds of retreats with all different kinds of priorities and reasons for being. And so next month, I'm actually going to be attending another retreat, which is, again, very different. This one is going to be very business related. And so it is being hosted by the Knit Social Girls, called an industry retreat. And the purpose of this retreat is to sort of bring together people who have businesses in this sort of fibre community and see if there could be collaborative projects that come out of this. And I don't know. It's a very, yeah, we'll wait and see what happens. Part of this very casual industry retreat weekend involves having a tapestry weaving lesson from a local gal. And so I'm really interested to do that for sure. That would be wonderful. But yeah, as I'm talking about all this retreat stuff and the need to go away and how different retreats are structured and, what they're like and what people focus on and what people are learning, I'm actually really curious to hear from you guys. Have you ever been on a retreat? What's your favorite retreat been like? Has your retreat been about knitting only, or has it been a combination of knitting and spinning and weaving? What would make your perfect retreat? What would be your dream retreat? What kind of instructors would you want to take lessons from? Or would you want to have no instructors and just a really relaxed, open studio kind of do whatever you want kind of time? What kind of things are important to you for a retreat? I don't know. I think there's all different kinds of retreats, and I think that sometimes I think about just retreating to my attic and spending a day by myself in the attic. It's not really feasible, but I think about that too sometimes. That would be the easiest and least expensive retreat. But yeah, I'm open and interested to hear what you guys have to say about this topic. So now that October is over and we're into November, I feel like November is a time before before crazy holiday Christmas time and, all of that. And when I get into December, I get very much into a very goal planning, vision planning, yearly review. I do a big annual review every year for both my business life and my personal life and my crafting life. And so all that's going to come up soon. But November, I feel, is like this little slice, this little window where there's an opportunity for us to just play. Just play. No big projects. Just enjoy. Maybe try something that you've never tried before. One of the things that I'm thinking about trying is actually going through my stash of yarn that is all from other dyers or other manufacturers, and going through and just using that yarn and playing with it and looking to other people's stuff as inspiration. So that's one of the things that I'm thinking about. The other thing that I'm thinking about is also looking at my handspun stash and then kind of blowing that up and just using all of it up so that I can kind of start 2019 with a blank slate. I want to start fresh. I want to start from zero. So those are just a couple of things that have been going on in my head right now. And one last thing that I wanted to share with you guys is actually, in this time just before the holiday season, maybe you're knitting gifts and things like that for your friends or for your family. I stumbled upon these wonderful things that you can get made. They're so cute. Tiny little woven labels that you can sew into your project. So if you have your finished shawl, you can just sew the little tag in. I really wanted to, I was thinking about, the hat that I'm knitting right now, and I wanted to make a little label that would fold over the brim of the hat like this, so it would be kind of like that. I have these weird ideas about how I want to label things. But I remember many, many, many years ago, when you'd buy sewing patterns, like from Vogue Patterns, depending on the designer of the pattern that you bought, sometimes they would slip in a little bit of a woven label for, whichever designer you happen to buy the pattern for. So I got these ones made for SweetGeorgia. I think they're really super cute. And they're from a shop called Dutch Label Shop. And you can get them in all different sizes. Basically, I designed this one from scratch with our logo, and I sent them my logo, and then they figure out how big to fit it into the space that I requested. But you can get this label made in any size you want, and you can get them, it's just like 25 pieces or 30 pieces or 50 pieces or like 1,000 pieces or however many pieces you want. Obviously, it gets less expensive the more pieces you buy, but I think I got 30 pieces just to see what it would be like. I thought they're super cute. But in any case, if you guys are interested and want to make something similar, they did give me a coupon code that you guys can use to get 15% off. And so basically, if you're going to the shop, it's Dutch Label Shop, you can enter the code SweetGeorgia Yarns 15 to get 15% off your order if you guys are ordering little labels like this too. So that is it for this week. Again, I would love to hear your comments and your suggestions about what your dream retreat would be like. If your retreat is with like 5 people, 12 people, 50 people, 300 people, let me know, what you guys have in mind and what would be fun and interesting to you. So that is it for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you like this video, please do hit the like button. And if you would like to see more videos like this, please hit subscribe and you'll get notified when new videos like this go up. But basically, I publish every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.